So when I was in my early 20s, instead of applying to grad school like the rest of my friends, I decided to go to Paris. And I booked a one-way ticket. I didn't really care that I didn't have the visa to stay and work or speak French or know anybody there or have any money. It didn't matter because I had my violin. And what I would do is I would just play on the street and people would toss money at me and I would live a romantic bohemian existence as a Parisian busker. And that is actually what I did. I got there and I rented a comfortable closet in the north. And every day I would take the subway down and to places like Notre Dame and Palais Royal and windswept bridges overlooking the Seine. And I'd play violin and people would toss money at me and it was a beautiful existence. And sometimes what would happen is people would stop and they'd ask me if I could play for an event they were hosting, like a cocktail or a wedding. And on one such occasion, pretty early on, just after I got to France, a young gentleman approached and he said something to me in French. And if you've ever learned a foreign language or tried, you know that you pass through this very awkward and painful phase where you only understand about 10% of what people are saying. And you exist in this sort of haze. And this is what happened. Like, when someone's saying something to you, you really have two options. You can give them the Google-eyed what the fuck look, and that can encourage the speaker to repeat themselves, hopefully slower, and it can aid communication. But I found out pretty early on that Parisians are a little bit low on the tolerance level. And so giving them the Google-eyed what the fuck look just pisses them off. They don't really have time to be repeating themselves or speaking slower. And so I adopted a different technique, and that was you amalgamate tiny bits, just little fragments of what you kind of understand, and then you piece together a kind of meaning. And so in this case, I understood jouer, cocktail, samedi. Jouer, cocktail, samedi. Oui, I said oui. Okay? And at any time when I needed to really have the information down, like I didn't want to screw it up, so I had this notebook, and I gave him the notebook, and he wrote in the information, where he had to be and when. So he wrote samedi, 7 o'clock, he wrote the metro, which was École Militaire, he wrote the address, and he wrote what I took to be his name, Devalier. Perfect. Bonjour, Monsieur Devalier, à samedi. Okay, samedi comes along. I'm exiting the metro, and I'm walking towards the gig that's clearly noted in my book. And I get my first surprise because what I'm noticing is that the gig isn't just at the École Militaire metro. It's at the École Militaire. Now, if you don't know what this building is, maybe you've seen it if you've been to the Eiffel Tower or seen pictures, because you've got the Eiffel Tower, then the Champ des Mars, which is this big green space where they used to have military drills, and it's where they decapitated the first Parisian mayor, and now they have rock concerts, a whole variety of events. And then on the other side of that is this ornate building. It looks like a chateau, and it's got columns and statues and classical architecture. It's huge. And that is the École Militaire. And so I'm walking as I'm heading towards the chateau. I'm getting this unsettling sense of doom that I might have misinterpreted my mission for the evening. And as I get closer, I see that it's just teeming with distinguished guests, and there's multiple entrances, there's obviously multiple functions, there's security everywhere, cops and gendarmes, and I'm not only feeling out of place, but I'm a little bit wary of my illegal immigrant status now. And I don't even know where I'm supposed to be, and I have 5 minutes to be there. So I go through the front door, just the main entrance there, and I'm subject to a very rigorous security check with a pat-down and some x-rays and an inspection of my violin. And once that's done, I ask the security guard if he knows Monsieur Devalier. And he kind of laughs and he gestures down a hallway, so I follow the hallway, and like, this place is as fancy inside as it is outside. Like, this is not any ordinary school. Napoleon graduated from this school. This is a big deal. And so this corridor gives into this beautiful courtyard with flowers and grass and perfectly pruned trees. And there's a cocktail. I made it, almost on time. And it's obviously some sort of a political event. I can tell that by the slick suits and the carefully coiffed hair. And there's everything's very calculated, the way that people are standing and the way that they're chuckling to one another. And it's very political. And they're very well dressed. And looking down, I realized that I didn't really put that much effort into what I'm wearing. I'm really regretting that now, because usually we wear black to gigs. That's standard, but I didn't really think about that until an hour before the gig, and I didn't have any black clothes, so I borrowed some from my subletter, but he's a guy, so they're about 2 or 3 sizes too big, and the pants are rolled up a little bit. But the main problem is that the pants are like a dark gray, and the shirt's black, so they're mismatched. And as I'm noticing this, I hear, "Le violoniste!" And there's a guy approaching, and I say, "Oui?" And he says something that sounds like the Minister of Foreign Affairs. I give him the Google-eyed what the fuck look. Like, pardon? He says, "Follow me." And he's leaving the cocktail. Now I'm really confused, because isn't this the cocktail I'm supposed to play at? But he's going down another hallway, so I follow him, and then at the end I see a big sign. Duvalier. Amphitheater Duvalier. Fuck. And he opens the door, and I walk in, and it's completely silent, and there's hundreds of people. Distinguished guests, politicians, TV cameras, journalists. And they're all staring at me, and now I get it. I'm not supposed to play for the cocktail, but during the cocktail. These people are here to listen to a speech given by the Minister of Foreign Affairs, and I'm the entertainment in the meantime. And now I have to tell you that I suffer from extreme performance anxiety. I can't perform under any kind of pressure. To give you an example, I once had to play in front of a few nursing home residents. Just a handful. 80% of them were unconscious. And yet, I could barely make it through the piece. My hand starts to shake like this. And if you've ever known a violinist, you know it's a very precise instrument. You can't be shaking like that. It makes a sound somewhere between a machine gun and a sad sheep. It's like, it's awful, it's painful, it's horrifying, it's humiliating, and now I know that that is my fate. There's nothing I can do now, and I can already feel my hands starting to shake. And the guy, he takes my stand and he sets it up right in the middle. And I put my music on the stand, and my hands are out of control shaking. And the music is a joke. I mean, I can't play any of the stuff I brought. The only thing I can maybe try to get through are like the simplest baby beginner pieces, like stuff I learned years ago in my first year of violin. That's all I can do. And so all eyes are upon me. The TV cameras are swiveled in my direction. And I raise my violin and my shaking bow hand, and I proceed to massacre a simple minuet. If you've ever listened to someone trying to play the violin, like they don't know how, but they just pick it up and they're just whining and squeaking, it was a bit like that. My bow's just bouncing all over the place, and I just have to keep going. There's nothing I can do at this point, and I'm wondering, like, what are these guys thinking? Like, they're at this, like, high-caliber, serious political event, but they've hired, like, a beginner who's just, like, scratching and whining on the violin. And so I make it through the first minuet, and the problem with baby easy pieces is they're really short. So, like, after 20 seconds, I have to play another one, and then another one, and they're just as bad. It's not getting better. It's actually getting worse, because I'm getting, like, just humiliated. This is pure public humiliation. And maybe after the fourth piece, I'm right in the middle, and the door behind me opens, and everyone gets to their feet, and they're applauding, And I turned to face the French Minister of Foreign Affairs. And our eyes lock. He's the only one in the auditorium who is not privy to my public shaming. And he looks at me, an illegal immigrant in his country, dressed in mismatched men's clothing, and he says, "Merci pour la belle musique." And that's my cue. I grab my shit, I get the hell out of there. Now somebody somewhere must have had 50 euros for me, but I wasn't about to collect it. That would have been a federal offense. Thanks.